define Black masculinity?
Well, I mean, I think you're basically on this most generic level, you're talking about the qualities and characteristics of Black men and
Okay.
boys. But we know that alongside that, culturally and politically, these are things that Black men and boys themselves have developed in response to communal expectation, familial expectation, and as
Right.
well as navigating white supremacy. So dealing with the realities of all of those different layers of Black life. Uh,
Mm,
Ideas about manhood, ideas about male roles, gender roles in particular. Black men have, developed various responses to that, and much of it is pressured and shaped by environment. So when
fair.
you see, a widespread kind of set of behaviors amongst Black men, that's when you start to you have to raise the question: what are the environmental conditions that produce this, right? But
Mm,
generically speaking, we talk about Black masculinity, that's roughly what we're speaking about. And of course, there are all kinds of dimensions to that, especially if you involve LGBTQ. And a lot of those narratives since the 80s have really forced people to really question gender roles and where they come from and what's socially constructed and what's biologically determined. And all of those things are
yeah.
factors to the conversation. Yeah.
Mm, very, very interesting. So really, I mean, you said there's the just the basic understanding of, masculinity, what it means to be a man, but then
Mhm.
specifically Black masculinity is there's a lot of different factors. Culture, obviously, perception, the different unique traumas and different challenges that are
Absolutely.
associated with that really defines or makes a Black masculinity.
And this is a very unique culture, a unique group of men and boys, because you're talking
Hmm.
about a group that was, for the most part, taken, put in
Yeah.
an entirely different context, and then, outside of labor, framed to fail, right? And so
Mm,
for Black men, to succeed, however you define that, it's definitely against the grain. It's definitely not something that society has planned for or supported to any great extent.
fair.
It's nonetheless what Black men are navigating. So there's a lot of layers to that. I don't want to oversimplify it, but that is where I would start the conversation.
No, that makes so much sense. And it sounds like based upon the definition, then where you're defining it, like you use the example of within America, obviously, it's
Mhm.
unique because it's like many Black men, are, the descendants of slaves who obviously they had a history prior to that.
Right.
But historically, the understanding of most of us is just that it's Jim Crow, it's slavery. Whereas, let's say you're in Africa, for example, where you can trace your lineage back generations, that definition may change a bit. So if I'm understanding correctly what you mean.
Sure. I mean, we're talking about a group of people that were taken from different places and in many ways kind of
Yeah.
thrown together and kind of filtered through a forced experience going through the Caribbean, South America, all the way up to North America, and it's like scattered and sold about. So, there's going to be all kinds of dimensions to this discussion that you could literally take semesters, pulling apart. So, and we do in some of my classes. So it's, a lot of what I'm telling you is just very surface level in that respect, but it does feed into a lot of the nuance of what Black men navigate. You
No, very, very interesting. Um, okay, let me see and on to the next question. Also, special shout out to Omawali, Africa.
You said it.
I see a little something for the collection plate. On a side note, Dr. Johnson looks like a giant next to you on the screen. Great talk. Oh, he's over here poking fun.
Mhm.
For those of you who are on, please get those likes up, tag anybody, or share this discussion with anybody who think may find it interesting. We are talking about Black masculinity, specifically Black women, and whether or not they are taught to fear Black masculinity, and so much more. So on to the next question. So
Okay.